So yeah, I want to talk about CPT online stages and some interesting developments around that. First, Capcom announced that the CPT will be online only. Let me try to find it. Yeah, there we go. There is a picture of it. So they announced a new way how to qualify for Capcom Cup because of the coronavirus stuff. Obviously, it was not going to happen the way we were used to. Originally, 40 people, I think, were supposed to qualify for Capcom Cup. They trimmed it down to 20, and all of the events and all of the qualifiers are going to happen online, which is interesting. What gained a lot of traction is the rule around stages. So Capcom decided to ban the grid. Now, this is actually nothing too surprising because Capcom always bans the grid in the CPT events. When you're at an offline event and you're playing on stream, you are not allowed to play on the grid. So this has always been the case. But online, it's a different story, and people feel very differently about it, right? It's nice they gave Daigo a guaranteed spot. I really wonder if that's going to happen, by the way. Like, this is basically another story entirely. The community, the fan favorite vote. We'll see about that one, right? In any case, it's going to be difficult to qualify for Capcom Cup this year because there are only 2 tournaments, essentially, people can qualify at. And, yeah, if you don't do well, you have to... Basically, whoever wins these single events online, they're basically locked for Capcom Cup. So that's interesting. The stakes are really high, which is interesting because that's going to make it more interesting to watch. But there's a lot of possibilities for disaster because it's online, right? And one of the disasters that people don't want to have is, well, unnecessary lag. And this is a topic that I've been talking about for a long time. And I guess I have an interesting approach to this discussion because a lot of people agree on the fact that the grid offers the best online experience, and in all honesty, that never lined up with my own experience. But not only did it not line up with my own experience, every single time when people make the statement that the grid is somehow less laggy than other stages online, it's like, this is just anecdotal evidence. And there have been people who try to show that this is actually the case, right? And unfortunately, nobody has been able to show that this is actually the case. So this is quite interesting. People constantly complain about stages being laggy, but yet there's no evidence to suggest there are more frame drops on stages like outside of the grid. And in fact, there have actually been tests done that document the grid not even having the best experience, or not offering the best experience when it comes to frame drops. And that was done by Wide, and Wide is recognized to have really solid measurement techniques. But even he said, well, this isn't anything conclusive, and we just don't know. If there is obviously a benefit to playing on the grid when it comes to like a frame drops perspective, then I think people would have been able to show that. And I've actually tried to show that. I made a video around that, recording online matches while they're happening. So the live online match, I recorded them, a couple of matches, and in an uncompressed format, by the way. So that's kind of important because you don't want to have like a random frame drop with the recording. You need to have it as uncompressed as possible. And I also did the recordings on several stages. So the online match live, I recorded them live, and the replay from those matches, because I didn't just want to see, are there frame drops when you're playing live online, and is there a difference between offline and online with the same match? And thankfully we can do that because we have a replay system. So I made the recordings for the live online match and the replay afterwards. So we basically have offline versus online, and we have the data on different stages. So I tested like Field of Fate, that's a stage that people constantly complain about. The grid, obviously, the Christmas stage that was released like last Christmas, I think, right? and one more, I forget, but doesn't really matter. I tested a couple of stages, and it turns out none of the stages showed any frame drops. And there was no difference in offline versus online, the grid versus Field of Fate. They all performed in the exact same way. Not a single frame was dropped. And I did this test on a base PlayStation 4. Okay, so that was not done on a PlayStation 4 Pro. This is literally first generation PlayStation 4. Because this is something that people have been discussing a lot as well, making claims that the old PlayStation 4 simply cannot handle Street Fighter 5 at 60 FPS. And while this might still be true, because the data that I provided is not conclusive as well. I cannot argue, I cannot say that definitively there's no problem when it comes to frame drops. But it's definitely not easy to show, and my tests have shown that there's no difference, at least when I tested it, right? So if there was an obvious problem with the other stages, it should be super easy to show, but for some reason it's not. And this leads me to another discussion entirely, that actually, like, let's take a look at this, because before I rant longer about the current state of affairs, let's take a look at what Capcom fighters had to say, because there was a lot of outrage around this idea that the grid was banned, right? So Capcom fighters said, quick update, we've updated the rules to allow the grid to be played in pools, but it is still banned in the top 16. Now, this is better than it used to be, but it's still bad. And people earlier asked me, why is Capcom even banning the grid in the first place? And the reason why they're doing this is, well, very obvious. They simply don't want to show a boring stage in a high-profile tournament. They want people to take a look at the tournament matches and be excited about, well, the presentation is just upgraded if you don't play on the grid. It's really only that. And that's kind of sad, actually. And like I totally get it from Capcom's perspective. But then you have these comments right there, for example, right? Saint Cola said, please allow the grid at top 16. With how the stages are and how they induce lag, this is really interesting. Like, people are so comfortable saying that without any evidence whatsoever. Many players play on the grid for that reason. Now, and here's the problem, and I actually got tagged in that discussion as well. I have no first-hand knowledge of this, but I think Jimmy did some testing and found that the grid doesn't necessarily reduce nor prevent lag, which that was a conclusion of mine, but as I said, it's not conclusive. There could very well be a problem that we're not aware of, right? So we have to be fair about this. But yeah, the problem that I have is people cannot differentiate between the visual experience is actually going to be worse when there's a lot of rollback. And this is something people cannot talk about separately. When they play on, the reason why people complain about Field of Fate, for example, is not because it actually causes more lag. It's just because the lag is actually way more obvious on Field of Fate, and that's because the more dynamic the backgrounds are, the easier it is to see rollback, and the more the visual effect is going to be more pronounced. And obviously that's a problem when you're trying to play competitively, which is why people don't play on Field of Fate. But at the same time, what they don't realize is the lag isn't any different on the grid. It's just that it's just more noticeable because the backgrounds and the grass, whenever rollback occurs, you can just see it because the grass also rolls back. So the animation will not look smooth anymore. On the grid, you will not notice that. You will simply not see this effect. But in reality, the match is has the same lag. You won't be able to confirm better on the grid as a result, unless you can argue, obviously you can argue, well, because it's such a bad visual effect, it'll make it more difficult to concentrate on the match. Fair enough, I'll give people that, okay? I'll definitely concede that point. And as a result, you want to have the least intrusive way of playing online, right? And that's why you can always say, I want to play on the grid. Fair enough. At the same time, though, I don't really see the problem with playing on Suzaku Castle, for example. It's basically a static background as well, and the experience there should not be significantly different from the grid. And I feel confirmation bias is at play here when people complain about, like, you play on anything but the grid, and let's say lag kicks in, right? It's so easy to go into this mindset and say, it's because of the stage. And I feel like people want that excuse all the time. They want to feel like they could have done something about the lag. They're so desperate to be in control of the lag in Street Fighter V that people are willing to make up rules and arguments about stuff that they have no data on, and there's no data to support that on. And that's the sad part about it, right? I wish people could just be a little bit more clear when they articulate their issues. And so yeah, that's basically what I wanted to say on this topic. And one more thing that is kind of interesting is there's actually a way we can have our cake and eat it too. So Capcom, the reason why Capcom wants the grid banned is because they want the game to look nice for the viewing experience, right? And the players, they want to play on the grid because they feel like it has less lag. And it's obviously, because of the static background, it provides the best experience for competitive play. And there's actually a way to do this. And TS Sabin, is that how you even say it? Sabin? Wait, what's the guy's proper name again? Arturo Sanchez, right? That's him. Right, I got it. In any case, right, I got it. Sabin, yeah. In any case, Arturo Sanchez, he made the proper recommendation here. There's actually a way to give people the ability to play on the grid and have Capcom not show the grid on stream, and that's something that's been done before. I'm not sure how technically challenging that is, but I'm assuming it is not. I reached out to the Mysterious Mod community, and I asked how difficult is it to mod it so that if you pick the grid, it'll show a different stage. And I'm pretty sure it's not difficult to do. It is required, you need to play on PC for this, but it shouldn't be difficult. And Capcom absolutely, and because it's not difficult, this should be something that Capcom should be looking into. Just work with the modding community here. It's not difficult at all. And I mean, obviously Capcom has access to the back end to make this officially doable, right? I think they don't even want to do that because you don't want to update your game. You don't want to have a developer only build for, or like a tournament build. I understand that that's asking too much, but even with the current state, they don't even need to do that. All they need to do is work with the modding community a little bit. If they're on PC, they can open a battle lounge and they can mod the grid to simply show a different stage, and then invite the players. The players can pick the grid on stream. It'll look like they're playing on the CPT stages, for example, but when the players are playing locally, they're going to be playing on the grid. So we can have our cake and eat it too in this instance. And I would love for Capcom to take a look at this and understand that this is actually a possibility. Everyone can be happy in this instance, so why not do it? It's actually quite easy if you're on PC. I've never really seen or taken a look at the mods that you can have for PC, to be honest. But yeah, it should be easy, right? We would be asking a Japanese gaming company for cooperation. Not sure about that. Capcom hasn't been like that bad when it comes to communication. They haven't been that bad about it. They're actually asking for feedback, and I think this is not unrealistic for them to do, because as long as Capcom, what is important for Capcom is that the online tournaments don't get degraded by showing the grid. Because if you have a person that normally doesn't check out Street Fighter that much, and you let them see an epic battle on an epic stage, and the visuals look nice and all, and they buy the game because of that, that's all they care about. So they can do that and at the same time not screw over the community. Even though as I said, there's no reason to say the grid offers like less frame drops. That's simply not true. I understand the need to at least feel good about the match, right? So if there's lag, you don't want to be like, did this lag because of the stage? You don't want that to happen. So let people play on the grid. Let people play on the grid and just use a mod in order to avoid this problem altogether. Yeah, you don't want to do that. Don't show a stage that is not in the game. I can fully understand Capcom not wanting to show mods of the game. They don't want to promote the modding community that much, which is kind of sad actually, because there's so much work and so much epic stuff going on, but it actually eats into their own budget, because how are they gonna sell DLC if you can just use mods? So I understand why they don't want to do that. And on top of that, this might be the #1 reason why they're not gonna be considering this path. Because if they have to use a mod in order to get what they want, like, they don't have to do that, right? And it'll legitimize this aspect about Street Fighter in a certain way. But at the same time, they can actually do that. They can hide that, right? And that's the thing. They don't have to disclose that at all. They could just use this as an option, maybe communicate that to the players. Even if they communicate that to the players, it'll be weird and it'll actually make headlines. So maybe they want to avoid that altogether. And this might be the best reason, like the #1 reason why they want to avoid going down that path. Even though they can have their cake and eat it too, it might just be the safer option to enforce the grid being banned. Has a single other person done any kind of control testing about stage lag after your video? I don't think so. But there have been people who did this before I did my video. In general, people are apparently, they've already come to terms to, like, there have been a lot of people who said, I disagree with Jimmy's video, which I don't really understand what they mean by that. What they meant to say is, I still think the grid is laggy, right? And there is is not laggy. I mean, the grid offers the best experience. That's the argument, right? And there are people who are actually triggered by my video, even though I specifically state that nothing that I've done, nothing about my testing is definitive proof of anything, right? It's just me trying to figure out if there's a problem. And if there was an obvious problem, I would have encountered it with the method that I used to test this. But I didn't, right? And that's all there is to it. This is why I encourage people to do their own testing to see if there is indeed a problem. At least we can measure it that way. And I can tell you one thing, there are stages that are laggy. There are the vanilla stages in particular that have background animations that you can trigger by attacking something. Like the China stage, for example, the lighting sign in the background, if it falls down after you kick it, there can actually occur frame drops. There are frame drops that can occur as a result of that. And I had a tournament match offline where that happened to me. I actually dropped a combo because of a background animation that I triggered on the China stage. It's kind of hilarious. So this is actually a problem. This is why I don't like to play on the vanilla stages, because the vanilla stages have these background animations built into them and they can actually cause frame drops. Yeah, Baseball Super, there are instances, the vanilla stages cause these problems, for sure. We know that. We already know that. But I can tell you that, like, the Field of Fate, people complain about that stage. It runs at 60 FPS even on my old shitty PlayStation 4. Now, here's the thing. The probability, even if you play on the China stage offline, the probability of you getting screwed over by a frame drop is incredibly low. And in fact, I think the problem about frame drops used to be way worse in Street Fighter 4. Like, if you trigger a critical art of, an ultra of Ryu on the Xbox 360, so you do Shoryuken FADC Ultra, there was a massive amount of frame drops when you did that. Yes, I did drop a combo on the China stage, and that isn't the first time I've noticed this. The game when you trigger the background animations of certain stages, like the China stage, the sign in the background, the lighting sign, if you trigger, if it falls down, it causes frame drops sometimes. I know that for a fact, guaranteed. So that can happen. The thing is, people don't care about that much, and there are no good reasons to care about it in general. Even offline, people will. It's kind of funny because people will complain about not being able to play on the grid when they're playing online. I will literally get blacklisted if I don't play on the grid. But at the same time, when people play on Capcom Pro Tour events offline, they will pick random select. And there's no rule in the CPT that actually forbids the grid from being played, by the way. Take a look at, actually now they changed the rules, but I actually looked up, the CPT 2020 and 2019 rules, and there's nothing about the grid being banned. You can literally play on the grid in a CPT event, in an offline event, and people will still pick random select. And that just goes to show you that it's not a big deal in Street Fighter V. Frame drops is not a big deal. It's very, very unlikely, even on the China stage, to become a problem. You have actual hard data that prop background drops frame rate? No, I did not do any tests, but... So yeah, that's anecdotal evidence. But when top players tell you certain stages lag, I think that's what they mean. Because there's no doubt about that. There's really no doubt about that. The animations that you can trigger in the background, they can and do cause frame drops. This has happened multiple times to me. So I'm very confident in saying the game can drop frames. So this can happen to you. But the question is, how much of a problem is this? And so because people complain for online events is that it desyncs somehow, right? And since the update for the netcode, this is even less of a problem because of the resync feature. Even if there was like a desync occurring because of the backgrounds frame drops or whatever on the China stage, for example, the game would just resync, right? So it would just be an issue in that exact moment, but not for the rest of the round. Vega stage, I would have to take a look at that. Zephyrus, I would have to take a look at that. In my experience, the Vega stage is not a problem. I've played on it plenty of times. I don't notice any frame drops, and it's probably just a visual effect of the rollback. Because there are stages that are more difficult to watch. When the cage drops, it can cause desyncs. Do you have any data to support that claim, Zephyrus? I think random lag are a common occurrence, but lags due to stage, I would actually be surprised if this was true. Yeah. And this is why I'm asking the community to test this shit. I want people to actually know what they're talking about. And I get laughed at for providing data and providing a reasonable stance on this, and people are like, oh, Jimmy is such a casual, he can't even notice the lag. And I'm like, how biased can you possibly be to make such a stupid statement? And this is something that I've seen all the time, like when people make these weird claims. And when I say weird claims, that like the people talking about anecdotal evidence all the time, and they have literally no data to support any of their claims, and yet they will base their entire worldview on these assumptions. And they care so deeply about them, supposedly, but when it comes to actually doing some testing, nobody wants to do that. I think this is like when a generic mechanic tries to look into a BMW engine without the right computer for it. We can all just speculate, only Capcom can confirm these issues with certainty. I mean, even Capcom, how is Capcom supposed to do that? Well, they could do a proper benchmarking tool, right? They could provide that. And this way, and maybe they even have that internally, right? Maybe they have a proper benchmarking tool, and they could run, they could simulate games on all of the stages and thousands of matches in all of the stages, and see if there are more frames dropped on some of them, right? That would be a really easy way to do that. There is a benchmark tool on Steam, but there is no proper benchmark tool where you can select the stage, right? And even then, I would love to have, because like it's really sloppy the way you can gain information on dropped frames. Like you have to record a video feed in like an uncompressed video feed and hope you got it properly recorded without a random hiccup on your PC, and then you have to have a tool like Teardrop to analyze the video feed and determine whether there was a frame drop or not. A much better way would be to actually have access to the back end of the game and do internal tests, because I'm pretty sure Unreal Engine 4 provides functionality for stuff like testing, seeing the frame rate and stuff like that, and getting average frame rate. I mean, obviously it's there because it's built into the benchmarking tool, right? So it wouldn't be too difficult for Capcom to do this, and it's actually likely they have already done that. No, obviously you can't see a single drop frame at 60 FPS. You're right about that. You can't see that. If there's just a single frame dropped, you will never be able to see that. That is true, which is why we need to have... But the thing is, if the frame drops, or if there's somewhat consistent frame drops in a 60 FPS title, then sometimes when you press a button, it will not come out randomly. And that's the problem that we're trying to eliminate, right? We want to eliminate any kind of inconsistency during gameplay, and frame drops are inconsistencies during gameplay.